Welcome back to Dark Florida. I'm your host, Brooke Moreland. I'll be your guide as we explore the uncharted territories of legend, where the impossible comes alive. But first, do you have an experience of your own? Have you encountered something you can't quite explain? Maybe you've seen something in the woods. Whatever it is, I want to hear from you. If you're brave enough to share, just email me at darkfloridapodcast@gmail.com or on Instagram at darkfloridapodcast. And who knows, you could be the next guest on the show. Tonight, I had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Robert Robinson, a legend tripper, cryptid researcher, paranormal investigator, and the author of Legend Tripping, The Ultimate Family Experience, and International Legend Tripping, Adventure Outside the Box. He's been featured on shows like Monsters and Mysteries of America and Bigfoot in America, and he's a member of organizations like MUFON and the North American Dogman Project. In this episode, we dive into some of Florida's most fascinating mysteries, including Bigfoot sightings, haunted locations, and even the infamous Dogman. Robert shares his incredible insights from his decades of experience chasing the unexplained. And trust me, you do not want to miss it. So grab your flashlight and settle in. Relax and enjoy this episode of Dark Florida. Tonight, we have a truly special guest joining us. It is Robert Robinson. Rob and I met through friends in the Florida Bigfoot scene. We've crossed paths at the yearly Christmas party, and his wealth of knowledge and incredible stories immediately caught my attention. I have been so eager to have him on the show ever since. He's been chasing mysteries for decades, and I can't wait to dive into his experiences tonight. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment to congratulate you, as you were just announced as one of the next speakers at the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. That's an incredible honor, and welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Bert. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, like you said, my name's Robert Robinson. Background, I grew up as a military brat, joined the Army right after high school, spent 21 years as a airborne military policeman in the United States Army, retired in 2003, moved down to Florida with my family, went ahead and became a JROTC instructor, which I've been still currently doing here in Florida. I got into the whole unexplained. I found out recently that my mom told me that my grandmother used to sit there when I was real little and tell me all these legends and stories and stuff that happened in Scotland. But I remember, one of the defining moments. You're going to hear this from a lot of other Bigfoot hunters, was the 1974 movie The Legend of Boggy Creek. When I saw that, I got bit by the old Bigfoot bug, as the expression goes, and went to school. Actually, the movie scared me. In fact, I don't remember. It was a double feature, and I don't even remember what the second movie was, because that one scared me so much. You know, the whole time I'm going home, I kept thinking, I wonder if this thing is in my backyard. Because I'm 12 years old. Okay, so I get home and my dad says, "Hey, take the dogs out. They got to go to the bathroom," and I'm like, I'm not going back there. What if that thing has left Falk, Arkansas, and is in my backyard, knowing that I just saw the movie about him? So I went ahead and made my brother come out there with me, because the way I figured I could run faster than him. So if it was back there, it would get him instead of me. Needless to say, it wasn't back there. But anyway, I went to school and I started talking about it to the teacher and stuff, and she brought up the whole Bigfoot and the Yeti, i.e. the abominable snowman, and showed me some books by Ivan T. Sanderson, John Keel, to name a few. And, I just started, that was the books I enjoyed reading. If I had to do a book report in school, I used to go pick one of those books to do it on. And then the TV show came on, In Search Of, and that's another thing that I really enjoyed. And I remember in 1976 going to Ripley's World of the Unexplained in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, as we were passing through. And I thought, wow, this has finally got a museum that is with stuff that I like, And I just kind of had, like I said, I've had an interest. I didn't really get serious about it until I retired, because in the art, I mean, I always had an interest in it, always read, and wherever I was at, I would look into it. But a lot of times, in the military, you're in areas where, there's not a whole lot going on other than, what's going on. And after I retired, I wanted to go to Florida for one of the reasons, because Florida is like a target-rich environment when it comes to the unexplained legends and all kinds of stuff. And and as far as the writing, actually, was friends with a Charlie Carlson, the author of the best-selling book Weird Florida, and he invited me to come over and do a presentation. And after it, he says, you need to take what you're doing and talking, and you need to put it on paper, because that would really work. So, try to shorten the story up. My first publisher I had was not a good publisher. She really didn't. We didn't really see the same thing. Didn't have the same vision on what I wanted my book to be about. So I got published, but it missed the mark. David Hatcher Childress from the TV show Ancient Aliens actually got a hold of the book and contacted me and said, I got a hold of your book, and I said, oh, thank you. What do you think? He goes, it's good, but you missed the mark. You went off on a tangent on different things, and you lost your audience. He said, oh, darn. He goes, well, I want to redo it. I want to redo the book, and let's do it the way you're telling me you want it done. So with his help and his publishing company, I re-put it out, and it did really good, real good. And then, in fact, he called me after it. He said, okay, your book's doing really good. What are you going to do for a second book? And I'm like, man, I haven't I haven't thought about a second one. I'm so exhausted from doing that first one. He goes, well, I'll give you 5 minutes, and you call me back and tell me what you're going to do for the second one. I said, oh, okay, 5 minutes, huh? So I sat at my desk thinking, no, I did everything about, all legends and stuff in the United States and stuff. And I said, well, we got, what do I pick a different part of the world to start doing it? Or do I just do the whole world? And I said, I'm going to do the whole one. I'm going to do the whole world of legends. So I called him back. I said, hey, I'm going to do legends all over the world, call it International Legend Trip. And he goes, great. All right, let's do this. Use the same format, first book. And then when you get stuff, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. And we call it the red pen. He'll either say, take this part out, or he'll say, I like what you're doing. Put some more in on a certain thing. So, and then the second book came out, International Legend Tripping, and that did really well, especially overseas in Europe and Australia. Believe it or not, it did really well over there. So I continued, like I said, I go out squatching, Bigfoot hunting, Bigfoot researching, however you want to say it. Here in Florida, I've done it up in Pennsylvania, and South Carolina, North Carolina, um, Georgia. I've done it up there too. So it's something that I have a very strong passion in. And if you were to ask me, do I believe there is a large bipedal creature roaming around parts of the country, and I would say yes. I've seen enough evidence to indicate there's definitely something out there.
What are some of the stories that really stick out that helped affirm that belief for you?
Okay. One story. I think it's a story I told you that night that we met over at that party. Back in 2012, individual came in fact, she came to my school. His son went to the school, and he told me that on Thanksgiving morning, 2012, he was out at the Green Swamp, which is north of Lakeland, Florida, and he was sitting in a tree stand, 6 o'clock in the morning. It was a mist, and they had a palmetto field in front of him, and he saw a large figure come walking across the field. And he noticed how fluently and how very, I guess gracefully or whatever, it seemed to move versus a human would, move very awkwardly through a palmetto field, especially at that time in the morning. And he noticed, at first he thought it was, again, he thought it was a hunter. And then he thought, and because the way the fur was very matted down, I said, would you look like a ghillie suit? And I said, no, it was all the fur or the hair was matted down. It wasn't up like a ghillie suit would be. So he goes, no, I didn't think it was a person in a ghillie suit. And he said that, it stopped. And he said he heard stories about the skunk ape before, but he never believed it. So he stopped. He was playing on his phone, stopped playing on his phone, brought his phone up and started recording. And he said the animal was sniffing the air, and it seemed just like when he started recording, it turned around and just looked right up at him. And he said a chill shot down his spine when he realized it wasn't a person in a suit, but a real creature. So he immediately stopped filming because he didn't know if this thing was going to come charging toward him or, whatever it was going to do. So he stopped filming, put his hands on his rifle just in case the thing came charging at him. But the thing ended up going in a totally different direction of him. And he said he took off. He said, I couldn't believe how fast it took off. He got on the phone, called his son and his dad to come out there. And they said he was hysteric. He was just really off, he was very hysterical about what it was that he had seen. And they got him out of the tree stand, took him home. And his son said my dad went right to his bedroom and just laid down in the bed and and just laid there. It really messed with him seeing this thing. And, this gentleman, we talked. He 2 weeks later, he took me out to the site and, we looked over the area and, we did find footprint. Well, you showed me which direction it went and we went over there. But again, this was like 2 weeks and water had filled the prints. And I did try to get some water out of one and try to make a print. I did try to make a print, but it was nothing that looked anything like a footprint. So, but you could clearly see how what it was running down this road in the mud. And it just kind of stands out that, it's one of the stories I really, really believe that this gentleman saw something that he couldn't explain. And then another story, I was up in the Crystal River area with a friend of mine, Eric Mothman. And every morning we would go down to this place called, what was it? This restaurant, Treasure something. It was a little diner right on the Crystal River. It'll come to me in a minute. But we would go there every morning when because we were up there, squatching and doing some in the area, and he had brought his boat up. But anyway, we were walked in that morning, and Eric had kind of told the waitresses what we were doing, kind of, hey, we're up here looking for Bigfoot. Yeah, that's us. Kind of, to flirt with him a little bit, I guess. It didn't work either, by the way. So anyway, but we walked in, and the manager approached us and said, hey, listen, that couple over there, I think something happened. And I look across the restaurant to the other side, and I see this couple dressed in camouflage, middle-aged couple, and the lady is in hysterics, and she keeps pointing at the husband. But the husband, big guy, brown hair and stuff, and camouflage, and he's just kind of, you can tell he's a, definitely got a country, he's definitely from Florida. He's what do we call a Florida cracker, Anyway, and I look at Eric. I say, hey, you want to go over there and ask what happened? And he's like, I don't know, man. She looks really upset. I said, well, let's just go on over there. I mean, if they tell us, they don't want to say anything or talk to us, that's fine. We'll go back here. So I said, I'll do the talking. And he goes, okay, you do the talking. So we get up and we walk over there, and I introduce myself and stuff. And I said, the manager said that, you may have seen a Bigfoot. And she almost stood up and pointed her finger in her husband's eye. She says, I told you that was a Bigfoot. I told you that was one of those hairy animals. And he's like, baby, calm down. People are looking at us, And she was crying and stuff. And it took us a little while, but we got the story that was her first time out hunting. And he took her out, and he went down the Crystal River a ways to these tree stands and had her up in a tree stand. And then he left and went down to another tree stand that was, again, apparently out of sight from where she was at. And she sat up there, and she said she was nodding off, falling asleep when she heard something pulling on the ladder or making the ladder move. And she looked down and saw this large, hairy-looking creature staring up at her. She said it had reddish hair, had a very, almost a human face, and a very muscular structure, not a big muscular structure, but she said you could see the animal had some muscle about it. And it was just staring up at her. Well, I said, well, how long did you guys stare at each other? She said, I don't know. But then I started screaming for my husband. and this thing walked off. I said, did it move off real fast? She goes, no, it just kind of walked off. Now, the thing I get about these two stories that, and as a military policeman, I've done, I've investigated crime scenes and all that stuff, and I've done interviews. And one of the things that if I don't believe a person, I will have that person tell me the story about 3 times, and I might interject a question or something. Whereas those two stories I just told you, those people didn't waver anything off of their stories. And the thing is, they could tell me everything they did that day. I mean, it was a life-changing event for them. I mean, I was so taken back how much detail they could actually tell. And they didn't bat an eye. They didn't say, I said, well, could you see its eyes? You see what color its eyes? Oh, let me think. Oh, well, the lady said it was dark eyes. It was dark black eyes looking up at me. So those particular stories, I really do believe that these people saw a large unknown creature. And even the lady too, I said, are you sure it wasn't, you said a human face, could it have been a guy in a gill? She said, oh, no, this was reddish hair. And it was a brownish face, but they said it had a bigger nose, flared nose, and the eyes. I said, it looked like somebody, almost like a half man, half monkey face. And I said, did the animal say anything to you? She said, it looked like it maybe, let out some air, like, but she said, but no, it never made any other noises. So, again, those are just two thin incidents where I wholeheartedly believe something happened. Now, we asked a couple, hey, could you, show us where this happened? And of course, the lady, are you crazy? I'm never going in the woods ever again, So, anyway, they gave us directions, but I don't think Eric got them right because we never did find the tree stands. And we went up and down the Crystal River, which the manager told me every so often they do get hunters that will come in and say, they saw something out there. So that area does have a history of skunk ape or Bigfoot, however you want to, or swamp ape, however you want to call this animal, sightings in that area.
Are there any other places in Florida that you've investigated, or when people come to you, do you just go right out and investigate that area, or how do you approach it?
I guess the quick question is I interview, because sometimes it'll turn out that they went into an area that I'm not allowed to go. I had a gentleman that I was real friends with, and he was doing a survival course with some teenagers, and this was down in Punta Gorda, and he called me to tell me about this, and he said that he had sent the kids off in different directions using a compass to go in a straight line and then turn around and come back. Also learn how to do a pace count. So anyway, they said that they would send them off in groups of 2. And he sat on the picnic table and he was waiting. And then the 2 boys come walking up and they were just looking at him, grinning, and they're saying, what's going on? So you tried to get us, didn't you? Try to scare us. And he's like, what are you guys talking about? You guys had a guy in a gorilla suit over there at the end trying to scare us out, make, Bigfoot. And Kevin's looking at him and goes, what are you guys talking about? You saw somebody in a gorilla suit? He goes, yeah. And of course, the boys are kind of looking at him funny and all like, oh, this isn't a joke. He said, where exactly did you see this? He says, well, we went down to the end of the area and you got that creek and there's a fence on the other side with a bit of a burn and this, what we thought was a guy in a gorilla suit was walking around on the other side, and it kind of walked off. He says, okay, well, show me. So they went down there and he showed it to him. And unfortunately, where he said the fence was led into private property. So anyway, he came back and they came back, and by then the kids are like, holy cow, this wasn't a joke. Maybe that we did see a Bigfoot, So anyway, he contacted me and I said, there's any way I could, interview these kids? And he said, I talked to the parents. They don't want it. No. They don't want their kids on TV. Or I said, dude, I'm not doing TV. I'm just trying to interview. He says, I'll show you where it happened. But no, you're not going to get to talk to them. They said, he goes, I basically, I told you what happened. And he said that it was a big, a big tall person in a gorilla, what they thought was a gorilla suit. And he says it's kind of ironic. It would, that's way out there in the middle of nowhere. I mean, if somebody was trying to do a prank, He goes, that whoever did it would not have known I'm bringing those kids out there to do the land nav class. He says I didn't tell anybody I was doing that. You know,
Right.
so somebody couldn't have just said, hey, he's going to take some kids out. Let's get a gorilla suit on, go out there and perpetrate a hoax. He said nobody knew I was doing that. And he goes, I don't have friends that would do anything like that anyway. So that was another one too that was kind of interesting. Again, I did not get to talk to the two young men who saw it, so I don't know exactly what they did see. It's a
Mhm.
shame too because I think I could. But then again, when he showed me the area, he said, you can't go across that fence. That's private property. Saying you'll get it. If any, they'll, you'll get in trouble for going over there. And there were signs saying, private property, stay out. So that's just another story.
How did you come to define yourself as a legend tripper?
Well, it actually, okay, quick down and dirty story. I always was into the cryptozoology aspect. Well, my wife got bitten by the old ghost hunting bug. Saw the TV show, and then we made friends with some ghost hunters, and we went out on ghost hunting. And what it was is I didn't want to be labeled a ghost hunter, but I did enjoy going out ghost hunting, paranormal investigation stuff. Because I still like the Bigfoot thing, and she didn't really care to the whole. I don't think my wife even think there is a Bigfoot. But anyway, she didn't want the label of being that, so I saw a book called Legend Tripping, and I said, huh. So I read it, and I found the term Legend Tripper, and I said that kind of fits what I like to do because I don't just look for Bigfoot. I investigate any kind of unexplained things, places where mysterious things happen, paranormal, UFO stuff. I'm a member of MUFON. Let me think, what else do I know I'm tooting my horn here. But the legend trip, me seemed to catch it all in there. So it didn't leave any like, well, we can't go talk to him about our ghost sighting because he only looks for Bigfoot. Now I do primarily. And a lot of the reason is I like camping too. I also use it as a way of going out and enjoying camping and bushcrafting, you know. So, but I do enjoy, if I find, an old abandoned place and, we are legally allowed to go in there and do a paranormal investigation. I love doing that stuff.
I guess I could call myself a legend tripper too, because although my heart is with Bigfoot, I don't throw out the other things too. I never had a Bigfoot sighting myself, but I have had a UFO sighting, and that really changed things for me.
Yeah, because I said it doesn't leave. There's no boundaries. Anything unexplained is open game, or like because there's so much out there to go. I mean, like
Mhm.
Florida, like I said, is a target-rich environment. Everything happens in Florida. You know, I mean, the skunk ape is probably the number one legend here in Florida, believe it or not. Um, as far as haunted places, oh my God, I can't begin to tell you how many haunted places we have here in Florida. Every lighthouse, every lighthouse that I've been to has had a reputation of being haunted. Um, we've had, people have come up missing, mysterious vanishings and stuff. We have sea monsters. We have lake monsters, Lake Monroe, St. Johns River, so we have that one going for us as well. And UFO sightings, oh my God, Florida used to be the mecca, you know, for, the Gulf Breeze sightings, that there was a very best-selling book about the Gulf Breeze sightings. So, and, I mean, I think other than California, which I don't know if it's having UFO sightings right now with everything going on there, but California was usually number one for UFO sightings, and Florida was number three. I mean, excuse me, number two. But for a while there, we were number one as far as MUFON statistics go. So, so welcome to the Legend Tripping Club, there, Brooke.
Yeah, thank you. Were there any particular sightings UFO here in Florida that really stood out to you?
Well, the Gulf breed thing, and of course, a lot of the stuff that the Navy is starting to show actually happened off of Florida, you know,
Oh, like the TikTok
and
video?
yes. So, I mean, I'll be honest, I have not seen a UFO. I really wish I had because I took a big interest in it after seeing that Steven Spielberg movie, The Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So I do enjoy that stuff. But sadly, I have not seen anything. But it's not for a lack of trying. And joining MUFON, I thought I could, find some areas that I could go out and start checking out. But unfortunately, they're very random. You have a sighting there, but you usually don't have one again. Usually.
I know that people are really toying around with this idea, but that they're coming from water. Funny enough, I actually had my sighting over the Atlantic, and you're right, it was very random. There was no pre-planned anything. We just happened to be going out to the beach at night, and lo and behold, we wind up seeing these orbs out over the water, and it was completely unplanned. I haven't seen anything like that since, and it took me a long time to kind of categorize what I had seen in that instance. And it wasn't until years later I was watching Unexplained or Unsolved Mysteries, and I saw the Phoenix Lights. That was
Uh-huh. Oh
exactly
yeah.
that's exactly what we saw that night on the beach. So very random, hard to pin down for sure.
Well, like I said, Florida is definitely like I said, all kind. I mean, we've had a guy named George Reeves back in the 40s from Brooksville reported that he had been taken aboard a flying saucer, and he was taken to the moon, believe it or not. And he used to, had a little stand set up there in Brooksville and everything about it. And now I know you're saying this is just a wacko that came, but he said when he went up to the moon, he reached down and grabbed some dirt, and when they had that dirt examined, it did turn out to be moon dust. So, wow, where do you get the moon dust from?
Right.
Um, Sadly, when he passed away, he had no family members and all that, so the place pretty much just got ransacked, and all the stuff got, you know, pillaged and vandalized and taken away. So, but I had a friend of mine um, who, when he was doing a National Guard exercise up in the area when he was really young, he said he met this guy in a restaurant, and he was telling him all about the story. And I remember him telling me about it, and I looked it up on the internet, and I was like, wow, this, pretty cool story.
Do you think that Bigfoot and other cryptids, do you think that those are physical creatures? Or do you feel like they're interdimensional beings? Or do you feel like it's something else entirely?
Okay, quick answer. I believe they're flesh and blood. Okay, as of, the evidence and everything and the witnesses I've talked to. The Mothman, well, again, it's only been seen once, so, or that during that time period, I shouldn't say once, during that time period over when the bridge collapsed. But as far as, Bigfoot goes, I believe it's a flesh and blood creature. And the thing is about it being interdimensional or being able to cloak itself. I've talked to people in the special forces and stuff, and they've told me pretty, some stories how they would just, basically stop moving in the woods and look down, and people would walk right by them and not see them. As far as interdimensional, it would, and again, this is my opinion. If this animal has the ability to be interdimensional, and it would seem that it would be up higher on the, the chain of command, as we say, on this planet than human. I have not seen any evidence that these things are extraterrestrial. Now, who's to say that I'm gonna go out Bigfoot hunting next time and see a flying saucer land and out pops a Bigfoot, and then my whole, belief's gonna go out the window. So, yeah. But as of right now, I believe the animal's flesh and blood.
Have you ever had an experience that just really deeply scared you or unsettled you when you were interviewing someone?
Um, well, I mean, in my own experience when I was with my son, and we heard something in the woods growling and making noises at us. I mean, that kind of rattles. I think what really bothered me is I couldn't tell what it really was. I'd love to say, hey, it was a Bigfoot, but I never did get a good look at it. I mean, I didn't get a look at it all. I could hear it splashing around the water, moving, and I could hear it making noises, and it didn't sound like anything that I thought I knew what all the animals out there were. And the reason I was out there was to retrieve a trail camera that I had put out in the area, and me and my son went back there to retrieve it. And unfortunately, I didn't have any of my equipment because all I was going to do is just go down there, get the trail camera, come back, get in the Jeep, and leave. And that one kind of rattled me because I kept thinking, here I am out in the woods by myself with nothing. And if this, whatever it is, comes charging out of the swamp at me, you know, it could have a sad ending to it. I do go out to that area when I do go out to the green. It's been a while though. I'll be honest. I haven't been out there in a while, but I am going back out here really soon. But yeah, during that time frame, I did go ahead and start going back out to that location to see if by chance whatever it was would show itself again. And I kept putting trail cameras out there. So, but I didn't get any evidence of anything out there. Nothing on the trail cameras. Unfortunately, I've had some trail cameras stolen too. You think you find a good spot for them, and some people come out there or whatever, and take them. I did see something on a thermal one night. I was up north with Stacy Brown and his group years ago, and we were on this property that was featured on Finding Bigfoot. And I had the thermal, and I was pointing it out at this palmetto field, and I saw something standing out in the middle of it. And the first thing popped in my head, of course, was, oh man, it's a poacher, because the owner of the property said, hey, be careful, I have poachers out here. So I handed the trail camera back to Stacy. Hey, there's somebody over there. And when he brought the thermal up, whatever it took off running. And, we got out there, we found out, where it was standing. And we had a gentleman by the name of David Lauer standing out there. Now we went back to where we were standing, which we knew exactly where we were at because there was an old broken down tractor there. And I pointed a thermo, and I could barely see David. Whereas I remember when we saw that whatever it is was out there, I could see it really good. So it was obviously a lot taller than David, and David's 6 foot. Okay, and this is my own personal opinion. I thought it was about 8 foot tall. I could barely see David, and then this thing I could clearly see clear as day. Well, not clear as day. That's wrong wording. I could see it clearly on the thermal. But again, with the thermal, you don't have an idea of height. You just see the heat that it's giving off. And, it was definitely taller than David.
How long were you tracking this on the thermal?
Well, I had just handed it in fact, the thermal belonged to Stacy, and I was just using it, scanning around. I would say about 5 minutes I had it, and then I turned around and I scanned this field and saw it standing out there. And again, the first thing popped in my head was, oh man, we got poachers out here. That's what I initially thought. Stacy's thermal doesn't have the ability to record. So when I handed it back to him, he has a recorder attached to it, but if you don't hold it right, it'll pull out the plug real easy. So when I had it, it didn't have the recorder on it.
Those thermals come in handy when you're out investigating, especially when you're in the woods. It really helps at night kind of put almost a name to a face because you can hear something ruffling around in the woods and you think, oh my goodness, it's right there. And then you look and it's just a little raccoon or something. What you think is a monster is just a little family looking for food.
Yes, you can definitely, you're right. Raccoons, possums, all little creatures out there, sometimes wild pigs. Yes.
How do you go about investigating these? You say you interview the person first, you vet them, and then when you're going out to those locations, do you do any research on that area first, or do you just kind of you go in with their story, any sign to back up their claims?
Well, after I get the phone call, talk to the person, I try to ask them if they can, we can meet and they can show me the area where it happened. And but I do go on the internet, go to like the BRFO website and start, their database and start checking to see if there's been any sightings in that area and how old, if there has been. And then when I'll meet with the person out there, and we'll do this in the daytime, and they'll tell me exactly what they saw, show me the area, and then I'll go out there, if I have my, family with me, they'll help me out. And, we'll go ahead and we'll look. Yeah, we'll check for tracks. We'll check for any kind of evidence that there was anything out here. And if I think, maybe we may have something here, I'll contact some of my other Bigfoot researchers, and we'll try to make an arrangement to have a little expedition. We'll find a camp area that's close by, if and then we'll go ahead, get the area set up, and we'll break into teams and go into different areas around that area and look around. And we do set up trail cameras. Um, but to be honest with you, walking around at night, there's just you're not going to see this thing. I mean, these things got incredible hearing and smell and all that, and they can hear you coming a long way away, and they're going to leave. It's you may get lucky and catch one of these things off guard, but most likely you're not. Most of the stuff happens, these sightings, or when you're sitting in your camp or you're just sitting in some area and they come walking by. But for you to actually go out and walk around the woods and walk up on one, it's probably not going to happen. I don't recall hearing any stories where people have actually went out, walking around looking for Bigfoot and actually found Bigfoot. I mean, they may have found footprints, but they're not going to find, and they may hear wood knocks, that the animal's out there, and they may end up hearing some weird hoot, um, that these animals make. But, I have not met yet anybody who's actually had the opportunity to walk up on one of these animals who's actually been out there looking for Bigfoot. That's the sad part. It's always people who aren't out looking for it, or they're just doing everyday stuff, hunting in a tree, sitting in a tree stand, and lo and behold, they see this thing. You know. So yeah, well, persistence pays off. You're not going to see this thing by just sitting at home. Or have any experiences and stuff. Ghost hunters don't sit at home and just, oh man, I wish I could. They go out there and they go find a place where they can do an investigation. And sometimes stuff happens, sometimes stuff doesn't happen. You know, like I said, when I go out there, doing the Bigfoot research, I also like camping. I enjoy that. I think it's fun. You get away from everything, and it's neat being out in the woods. And the second thing else, you're out looking for, an unknown creature. I do I think I'm going to see it? I'm hoping. I'm hoping that, if I keep doing this, eventually I'm going to get a good look at one of these things. Me and my wife have heard a wood knock, but I have never had any wood knocks respond back to me when I've been out. In fact, when I've been out with my friend Nick Tudor, he has a bat that he takes with him, and every now and then we'll go ahead and hit the tree a couple times and see if anything happens. But me and my wife were walking down the Florida Trail one time, and we walked for a while. We're just out walking, to take a look and see what the trail was like. And then we turned around. We were walking back to go back to the vehicle. And as we turned around to walk back, we heard bang. And I'm like, holy cow, what the hell was that? That wasn't a tree falling. Something hit. That was a wood knock. And all we can think of is that there was maybe one of those creatures out there signaling to the others that the humans have turned around and are now leaving.
Are there any current legends or unexplored cases that you're currently excited about?
I have been starting to look into this whole Dogman. Being a fan of the old Wolfman movies as a kid, and then meeting, I just forgot her name when she wrote the Beast of Bray Road, because I met her and we talked. Linda Godfrey, is that right? Yeah, I met her over at Crypticon, and she asked me to sit down with her and her husband, and we talked for hours. I mean, holy, and I don't know how much I really took in the whole Dogman thing. But sitting down and talking to her and her husband, I said, man, and initially when she did the whole thing, she went in there strictly as a biased, open-minded person. But in the back of her mind, she says, there's no way there could be a creature like that out there. But doing the research and stuff, she said, holy cow, there really is something to this. Down here in Florida, I think we have 2 cases, and they're old, of maybe Dogman sightings. So, but I've started to just kind of look into that kind of thing. I mean, again, I get up every morning. I turn on, my computer, and I go on and I start looking over the news, looking for, anything going on with Bigfoot or unsolved, unexplained events. Anything. We have gravity hills. That's another thing that I like looking into, because we have one here, not too far from where I live, called Spook Hill in Lake Wales, Florida. There's a couple. It's not just here in Florida. There's other places around the United States where they call them gravity hills. And a lot of people, say that's just an optical illusion. It may be, but there's some of them. I said, man, that doesn't look like no optical illusion to me. But I am not a scientist.
To follow up what you were talking about, Dogman, I'm really fascinated in it too. I was just at the other Gather Up event this past year. We decided, spur of the moment, myself and a couple other researchers, to go up to Tennessee to the conference that they held in Gatlinburg. It was fascinating because Small Town Monsters, they put on a story about it. It was informing everybody, what is this Dogman thing that everyone's talking about it? Like, break it down from the beginning. Let's talk about it. And the two that I had with me, my two friends, they're kind of skeptical about Dogman. They knew that I was really excited about it. They're kind of like, we're here for Bigfoot, but we'll listen. It was so great because I tried to bring up the historical side of Dogman. I mean, we have it all the way back in the Egyptians with their dog-headed
Yes.
god. It's all throughout history, really, if you look at it. And maybe the vernacular Dogman is new, but the idea of like a werewolf entity type creature is not.
Oh, it isn't. You're absolutely correct on that. When I was doing my international legend tripping, I said I'm going to look into this whole dogman werewolf type thing. And every country in Europe has legends of bipedal wolf canine type creatures. I tell you, of course, you got the legends of the person, the shapeshifters that turn into a wolf or type creature and stuff. But I was actually taken back, like Ecuador. When I was in Ecuador, believe it or not, a while back doing a TV show, I was asking about, our tour guide. I was asking her about certain legends, or, do you have any legends about creatures that roam around the Amazon and all that? And she says, we have a legend of a werewolf type creature that roams around out there. Wow, really? I mean, it's really cool about this. Of course, this month that the new Wolfman movie comes out on the theater, which I think I'm going to definitely make a point of going to see that. I was invited to go speak at a middle school about my books and stuff. And I had a young man, just, I didn't realize how much it turned out he came back and told me he had read my books, which was a really, pat on the back there. My ego was doing flips when he told me that. But, he said, what is the difference between the dogman and a werewolf? I said, a dogman is a canine type creature, where a werewolf is a legendary creature where a human has turned into a wolf type creature. That's the difference. And he said, oh, you said you're the only person that ever said that. I said, well, that's I'm surprised, because that is the difference. A werewolf is a human turning into a wolf type creature, or a wolf.
Have you heard of the sightings of dogmen out of eastern Tennessee?
Yes, I don't recall them at the moment. But like I said, every morning I get up and I'll look at it and I'll type in, I'll just like Bigfoot or Dogman or unexplained or UFO sightings or haunted things, mostly cryptids, because cryptids seem to be more of I'm not going to say easy thing to go investigate, a more enjoyable thing to go investigate. And the reason I say that, you go out camping, when you do paranormal investigations, you pretty much go into the area, you walk around, set up cameras, and you just kind of sit around and wait for something to happen. Fortunately, sometimes I end up falling asleep because I'm forced to sit down and not move around and do anything. Whereas if I get up and move around, I'm good to go. I mean, we went to one place, I can't remember where it was. I'm thinking it was Kentucky or something, where there was a place that had a legend of a naked lady that would appear. And, well, I stayed awake for that one. So, but needless to say, needless to say, I didn't get to see her.
Well, you bring up Kentucky. You should get in touch with Martin Groves because with the Land Between the Lakes and the Dogman stuff that they're doing.
Well, I have to wait for strategic times, being teaching at a high school. But the good thing is I have my summers to myself, and I definitely get, and I always try to, wherever we're going, I try to always look in what's en route. So like if we have to go up and see the wife's family up there, I'll look and see which way we're going, and we'll go ahead and I'll find different things to do on the way up there. Like one time we went up to Brown Mountain Lights in North Carolina. That's where these unexplained lights appear on this mountain up there. And we got up there, and thank God I had a Jeep because I tell you, the road that leads up there was, holy cow. You wouldn't have been able to get up there with any, small little Hyundai or anything like that. But we got up there, and there was two other gentlemen that was actually up there too, and one of them was from that area. And we waited, and sure enough, the lights came out. We could see the lights and stuff. And he was telling us stories how, it's supposedly a ghost of a Native American who's out looking for his bride that was stolen by some settler dudes and stuff. But he wanders the mountain looking for her. So, but we saw the lights. I mean, it was really really cool.
Are you working on a third book?
I am working. I'm trying to do a more up to date book on the Florida skunk ape. I've got a couple leads on old stories I want to go check out and try to find out about them. And unfortunately, there was a lady back in the 60s and 70s, Ramona Clark Hibner, and she was an investigator down here in Florida. And of course, she hated the term skunk ape. She called it a yeti. She liked the term yeti. But she lived in Brooksville with her husband, and they were serious investigators. And she passed away in 1986. And fortunately, not all her research material has been found. She sent a lot of it to John Green, but some of it's still out there. And I'm trying to find some stuff. And I did get a hold of, went through the newspaper articles, and I went on the internet, and I did get a hold of a couple people that, reported sightings to the news. And unfortunately, one of them turned out when I got a hold of him, he goes, "Oh man, I gotta be honest with you. I lied about that whole thing. I made that whole thing up." I went, "Oh, bummer." That was a good UFO. That was a good Bigfoot sighting because then he reported he got hit by one of these animals, and he said, "Yeah, I made the whole thing up, and I was just doing that to be, I wanted to be the popular one in that night." And friends went and told some people, and they ended up getting a hold of an investigator, and he showed up with the newspaper, and unfortunately, I was kind of put on the spot, and I couldn't turn around and look at them and say, "Oh, I made the whole thing up." So I had to kind of follow through with my lie. But he said, "If you want to be in the truth, I made the whole thing up." And I went, "Darn it." When Finding Bigfoot was down here and I was down there listening to the interviews and stuff, I mean, I could tell some of these people were just trying to get on TV. And unfortunately, at one time I was one of those people. I mean, I didn't come up with a bogus sighting, but I wanted to, that's why I did some TV shows like Wife Swap and, Weird Florida and all. I wanted to get number one, get my name out there and possibly, be the next Josh Gates and stuff. Um, but anyway, back to that. I have come across some people who I said, "Oh yeah, you made that whole thing up. That's a hoax." And it's sad that people do that. Again, I think they do that to get on TV. And when I was doing an interview about, you remember I told you me and my son heard the growls and stuff, and we did see some eyes with my son's night vision, but again, we did not see a shape or anything like that. So. And when I was doing the interview, the person interview was really trying to get me to change my story up a little bit, make it a bit more, you know, come on, say you saw something or a big, huge shape of a large creature. And I said, I'm not gonna. Once you get caught lying in this place, you never come back from it. You
Right.
know.
It ruins your
And
integrity.
it does. People will know that, and it gets passed around. So I said, no, I'm just gonna, I didn't see it. I saw some glowing eyes. I did see some in the thermo, but I'm gonna be, I'm gonna, I hope someday I get to see like that gentleman did sitting in that tree stand, where I had a bona fide sighting, where I have no doubt in my mind. And this thing is too, when I listened to these people being interviewed for the show, and I knew they were being fake, hoaxing, because again, a lot of people when they see this thing don't want to go back in the woods again. It scares the crap out of them so much they don't want to do that anymore. And it is a life changing event. And and this gentleman I told you I met there, he didn't want to be on TV at all. He said, "I don't want nobody to know who I am and all that, because I don't want to be people making fun of me and telling me I'm making stuff up. I know what I saw." So, and that's another reason why I believe he saw what he did, because he was, he didn't want to be on TV. He didn't want to be interviewed. I mean, in fact, I'm not even allowed to use his real name when I talk about it.
What should people expect to hear from you at the conference this year?
I am going to be monitoring, the sightings and stuff, which I'm really excited. So I'm hopefully get some new material for my book. I will have my books for sale there. If you're interested in coming over, if you tell people if you have a sighting that you've never talked to anybody about or know of anything, please come up and tell me. I'd love to hear your stuff. I just love to hear new stuff. If you have a sighting that happened years ago, or happened when you were young, I'd still want to hear it. And it doesn't have to necessarily be Bigfoot. I'd like to listen to other stuff, but I am, like I said, writing a book on the Florida skunk ape. But I do like to hear all different stuff that goes on around here, especially here in Florida. The easiest way to get a hold of me is on Facebook. I have an International Legend Tripper. So if you go and type that in, it'll come right up to my page. And that's the one I go through every morning. I find articles out there and I publish them on that. But it does have them, you can message me on that. And that's the best way, because every morning I get up and I get on Facebook. I hope everybody, the people come out to the Bigfoot conference in April. I look forward to meeting new people and talking, hear new stories and stuff. I'm going out this weekend coming up, some friends of mine, and we're gonna go do some research and stuff. I haven't heard of any sightings in a while. I don't know what it is going on. Well, lately I know it's because it's been too cold. The weather's getting right there, the right, for me. I mean, I still go out in the summer. I go out early in the morning before the sun really comes up and just, walk around and just see what's going on and stuff. And a lot of times just to look for evidence. Because again, I don't think I'm going to, run into these unless this animal's just, sitting down, taking a poop, and I just happen to walk up on him. You know, that's about the only time. But who knows? Like you said, the only way you're going to see these things or find evidence is you got to get out there and look. And and like Florida is number 3 in the nation for Bigfoot sightings. So it's not so, and they're seen all over Florida. That's the thing too.
I'm actually going out myself this weekend to Ocala. We're going camping. So I'm going to be out there with some researchers.
Ocala, that is a target-rich environment. A lot of sightings. A lot of signs up there in Ocala.
And we're going to be smack dab in the middle of the national forest.
Watch out. There's been a lot of bear sightings, too, so you got to watch out for that.
My first time there, I saw 3 bears, and the people I went with, they looked at me and they were like, "We have been coming here for 2 years and we had never seen a bear." We're like, "You come one time and we've had 3 bear sightings." They were huge. They're like the size of a small car.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people, think, well, the bears here are small. Not all of them.
No, and not when you're deep on those Ocala roads in the middle of nowhere.
Yes, and there's plenty. I've been researching many, many times. In fact, I went out with Matt Moneymaker one time out in Ocala, and him and Bobo, we went way back out there looking for stuff.
Ocala's a weird place.
Yep, I remember one time we were out there, and we were way out there. And me and Matt were just talking, and Matt's going, "Man, we're way out. There's no humans out here at all." So we're in that Sasquatch area, and all of a sudden I hear this, and I look up and there's a hunter sitting in a tree stand right behind us, looking down at us, waving. I went, "Oh, well, so much for us being the only one out here."
Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you tonight.
Yes, me too. I had a great time.
I appreciate you coming on. I will drop your information in the show notes as well as all the information for the conference as well for anybody who might want to come and share their stories.
Absolutely, that would be great.
That wraps up my conversation with Robert Robinson. Rob's passion for uncovering the unknown is contagious, and I hoped you enjoyed hearing his incredible stories as much as I did. You can find all of Robert's links, including where to grab his books, in the show notes. So don't forget to connect with Dark Florida. You can follow us on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast. Support the show by buymeacoffee.com/Dark Florida. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Dark Florida 411. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. darkfloridapodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more spooky, strange, and thrilling stories. Till next time, stay curious and stay strange.